Welcome to Doctrine of the Hymns, where we explore the stories and doctrine behind the most beloved hymns of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I'm Nick Wells, here with my co-host, Todd Jeppson. Let's enrich our worship, strengthen our faith, and dive into the music that brings us closer to God and Jesus Christ. And we're back, Todd.
We are.
And what are we doing this time?
We're doing the morning breaks. Hymn numero uno, the very first hymn. Right there as you open up your hymnal.
Which has a really cool connection to its background, being the first hymn in this hymn book. So let me go into that really quick.
Do it.
Text was written by Parley P. Pratt. He was the editor and publisher of the Millennial Star, which is the church's official publication in England. And their first issue was published in 1840, and Parley P. Pratt wrote a poem called The Morning Breaks, The Shadows Flee, and put it on this issue. So that's cool. That's when this poem was written and why it was written. But then later in that same year, in Manchester, England, a hymnal was published for the church and the saints over there, and it included this hymn as its first song. And what's cool is that ever since that time, the church has kind of just included this song as the first hymn. And so we see that in the 1985 hymn book. It is the first song. So I'm really interested to see if that tradition will continue for this new hymn book coming out right now, if it will still be the first song. It doesn't sound like it's the first in every hymn book that the church has published, but in many of them, it has been.
What a great hymn to kick off the hymn book, right? It's all about the restoration. Albeit, I have to admit, I don't think I had ever sung this hymn at all in my life until I joined the Tabernacle Choir. And now we sing it all the time.
That's so funny because to me, I do remember singing it in church a couple of times, but it is definitely it's a hymn I know well, but I don't have very many memories of singing it.
No.
But I know it well because I hear it almost every single general conference. And I love it. I actually want to sing it more. I wish I had the opportunity to sing it more. I wish the music chair person at church would put it in the rotation more.
It's just such a big song with so many large jumps that, the organ part is not easy. The 4-part harmony in the hymn book is not easy. So it makes sense that people avoid it. But at the same time, it's such a good hymn.
It is. If I remember correctly, I'm going to have to look this up. I think it's one of the only hymns out there that has a high F in the soprano part.
Does it go all the way up to an F?
I think it has an F, and it might be the only hymn that has a high F in it.
Well, there's your answer right there.
So that's what it is hard to sing. It's a hard song.
But that doesn't give you an excuse for not knowing it, people, which is why we're here to teach you about this hymn. Let's jump in verse 1, shall we, Nick?
Do it.
The morning breaks, the shadows flee. Lo, Zion's standard is unfurled. The dawning of a brighter day. The dawning of a brighter day. Majestic rises on the world.
We've talked about this in the past, Todd. When there's a repeat of lyrics,
it means pay attention, people.
Now, in this case, we do see that when it's sung, the women sing it and then the men sing it. I'd be interested to actually go look at the original poem written by Parley P. Pratt and see if it is repeated or not. But for sure, it is being repeated here, whether it's for musical purposes or because that's how it was written in the text. It's still important.
Because it's talking all about the restoration.
That this restoration marks the dawning of a brighter day. The restoration marks the beginning of a better time.
Yeah. The clouds have broken. God's light is back on the earth. That dawn is coming to brighten the day.
And it rises on the world. It's the whole world. This is for everyone.
So exciting.
Big feelings, big big things in this song right there on the opening. I guess that's why it's so appropriate to be sung at General Conference, especially like Saturday morning opening
Because
song.
it's like, hey, people, revelation is coming. Buckle up because it is here. We are singing those high Fs to get your attention, to make you realize this is a big deal, people.
Yes.
Oh, so good.
We've talked about as well, it talks about here, Zion's standard is unfurled.
Yeah.
In previous podcasts, High on the Mountaintop specifically, we talked about a banner being unfurled. And that this restoration of the gospel is this call to all the world to come to Jesus Christ. Yep. He's restored the gospel. He's restored his church on the earth. Come to it.
Yes.
And partake of the blessings.
That. It's not just a he is here. It is here is his banner. Come to it.
Yes.
Amidst the chaos of the world, you can see that banner. So come. So great. And it just keeps getting better. In verse 2. Why don't you jump into that, Nick?
The clouds of error disappear before the rays of truth divine. The glory bursting from afar, wide o'er the nations soon will shine. This just feels like the same thing.
Yeah.
Rays of truth divine, glory bursting from afar. And it's going wide o'er the nations soon will shine. So soon it will get to all nations. And how interesting, we live at a time where I often wonder, so there's a prophecy that says that the gospel will be preached throughout the whole world and every nation will receive it before the Savior comes. Now, when I was a kid, I remember writing down, having a lesson on the second coming of Jesus Christ and talking about the signs of the times. And one of the signs was that the gospel would be preached in all the world. And we could fill out a checkbox for every sign of the time saying, yes, it's been fulfilled. Yes, it's been partially fulfilled, or no, it has not been fulfilled. And I remember marking on that no, it had not been fulfilled. And that was me as a teenager. And I remember feeling very confident at that time that no, this has not been fulfilled. The gospel has not been preached through all the world. Now, there are still areas of the world today where missionaries are not allowed to proselyte.
Yeah.
But the internet is there.
This is true.
I know for certain the gospel has been shared in every nation in the world. There is not a spot in the world where the gospel has not been shared.
Yeah. And even if you think about some of these places where the gospel can't be proselytized in, you've got Russia, you've got China, big places. And yet, what do we have being built in both St. Petersburg and Beijing?
Yeah, there's temples.
We have temples being built.
In Shanghai?
Or Shanghai, thank you.
And I think we do have missionaries in Russia. Or did they get taken out after the war started in Ukraine?
So there are definitely areas that have them, and other areas where either they have to wear plain clothes because they're not allowed to wear a suit and tie, or they're just straight up not allowed to proselyte. And yet the gospel still finds a way. I love that so much.
When people want to come to the Lord makes a way.
Yeah.
For them to receive it.
And I love this imagery the hymn paints about God's power or truth being painted as light. This imagery is found all throughout the scriptures, that light is synonymous with God. Because when you follow God, when you feel the Spirit, you are filled with his light, with hope, with that warmth, with that radiance that comes. It changes you. In fact, in Doctrine and Covenants, section 88, it talks about that. It says, if your eye be single to my glory, your whole bodies shall be filled with light. That's not it could be filled with light, or you might be filled with light. This is a if-then statement. If you do this, then you will do this. This is a promise made by God. How great is that?
There is a light. I have a testimony of that there is a light. And I don't know how to describe it. I don't know how to describe the word, but light is the best word that I have. Am I talking about literal photons coming out of a person's body? No. But light's still the best option that I have to use as a word. Like I love it.
It just draws you to those people.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about it that makes them shine, and it's so great. No wonder that these rays of truth are causing the clouds of error to disappear.
I love the imagery on the Nauvoo temple. I believe I've even brought this up in one of our very early podcast episodes, that there is the sunstones on the Nauvoo temple.
Yeah.
Which is a sun partially hidden by clouds with trumpets beneath that or above that. I can't remember now. But it's basically like the restored gospel is this, the trumpet is the sounding of the restored gospel is clearing the clouds, and so that the sun's rays are now coming through. I just love that image so much. It's talked about so much in these restoration hymns.
Yes. And then the hymn goes on to talk more about the blessings and the promises that are coming because of this light. So verse 3 continues, "The Gentile fullness now comes in, and Israel's blessings are at hand. Lo, Judah's remnant cleansed from sin, lo, Judah's remnant cleansed from sin, shall in their promised Canaan stand."
I love this line. The Gentile fullness now comes in. I was reading my scriptures one day, researching about Gentiles in the Book of Mormon, and I found that phrase, the times of the Gentiles, and it's talking about this Gentile fullness shall come in. And I realized that this phrase and this thought of the fullness of the times of the Gentiles is a specific time period mentioned in the scriptures all over the place. And it led me on a really fascinating study. I won't enumerate on it here, but just let me share a bunch of scriptures that I found in relation to this. I'll just read the verses because they just show the variety of locations that this was talked about. Romans chapter 11, verse 25, Luke chapter 21, verses 25 through 26, Doctrine and Covenants, section 45, verse 24 through 33, 3rd Nephi chapter 16, verse 4, 1st Nephi chapter 15, verse 13, and Luke chapter 21, verse 24. Those were all part of this study that I did about the times of the Gentiles and the fullness of the Gentiles coming in. And it all is talking about this period of time when the Jews, God's ancient covenant people, will have been scattered. But then, through the fullness of the Gentiles, they will be restored again to the gospel, which is what this verse is talking about. The Gentile fullness comes in, okay? The Gentiles receive the gospel. That was begun with Joseph Smith. And lo, Judah's remnant, cleansed from sin, shall in their promised Canaan stand. So they will receive the gospel. And we know at some future point, and President Nelson just spoke of this in his General Conference talk, that we know Jesus Christ will reign from his two capitals, one on the American continent and one in ancient Jerusalem. So in the New Jerusalem and the Old Jerusalem. And that the Old Jerusalem will be a righteous city populated by God's ancient covenant people. Just really cool stuff there, touching into all of that rich doctrine talked about in the scriptures.
How much hope there is in that idea, especially with all the turmoil and chaos in the world, knowing that one day that's all going to be put aside and that Christ's covenant people, his children, are going to be there to follow him again.
And I think it's important to point out as well, and the scriptures make this very clear, that when the Lord, at these last days, at these end days, when the Lord talks about his covenant people, he says that his covenant people are the Gentiles who have repented and keep covenants, and the house of Israel who have historically made covenants who don't break their covenants. Which, if you actually look at that, it means the Lord's covenant people are the people that keep covenants. And if you don't keep covenants, you're not the Lord's covenant people. Which means all of this like national identity or historical background or ancestral lineage stuff. It actually doesn't matter. What matters is the covenants that you're keeping and the covenants that you're making. And it matters not who you are born to, or where you live. It matters that you are keeping covenants with God. Now, these nationalities and these lineages and all of these things, they exist because God used these channels to establish his church. His church originally was just family based. And then it was established in Abraham's family, and Abraham's family became the channel in which the whole gospel would spread. Into this last dispensation, it was not channeled through a particular family. It was channeled through an organization, a church. But it's the people keeping the covenants.
Yeah. Oh, so much good. Can you see why we're excited about this hymn, people? Why we need to sing it more? This is why you study your hymns.
Oh, so then verse 4. This is so good. So
jump into it.
Yeah. Verse 4. Jehovah speaks. Let earth give ear, and Gentile nations turn and live. His mighty arm is making bare. His mighty arm is making bare his covenant people to receive. Well, just those first two words. Jehovah speaks. Makes me think of Joseph Smith's description that his voice was as of a great rushing of many waters.
Because when Jehovah speaks, his chosen people will hear. Always. Doesn't mean it's a specific, just like you said, it's not specific nation. It's not an ethnic group. It's not, quote unquote, people that are better than others. It is those who are ready and willing to accept the gospel are the ones that are going to notice and hear. The Gentile nations turn and live. This is stretching forth among all of the earth. Not just, how does it put it in the scriptures? That God is not
a respecter of persons?
Yeah. God is not a respecter of persons. He cares about everyone. Every last child. How great is that? And his mighty arm is making bare his covenant. The fact that he's not hiding it. He's not making it difficult to find. He's putting it out there as clean as possible and as easy to understand.
There's the verse in Isaiah chapter 52, verse 10 that says, "The Lord hath made bare his holy arm in the eyes of all the nations, and all the ends of the earth shall see the salvation of our God."
Yeah.
It's for everyone.
You can't mistake it.
And you can't miss it if you're open your eyes to it. Todd, why don't you read verse 5 for us?
Yeah. Angels from heaven and truth from earth have met, and both have record borne. Thus Zion's light is bursting forth. Thus Zion's light is bursting forth to bring her ransomed children home. In the scriptures, it talks a lot about the scattering of Israel, right?
Mm-hmm.
About these children that might have been lost in the wilderness, that were scattered and lost, and yet we're promised that they're going to come home, that all of God's children, every last person on this earth, will be brought home if they just turn towards that light.
The image here of angels from heaven and truth from earth. Well, angels from heaven, that's Joseph Smith's first vision. I would include in there, but also just all of the angelic visitations that he had to bring revelation. So revelation is again on the earth through priesthood keys. And then truth from the earth, this ancient record, the Book of Mormon. And then also you could even say the Lord has said that there are other records out there and that eventually we will receive more. And whether that's during the millennium or even before then, I don't know. But just that there are records and they testify of Jesus Christ, and that this revelation from heaven and these records from the earth both come forth and bear record. And thus, I love the word thus, because these things happened, thus Zion's light is bursting forth to bring her ransomed children home.
One thing that stuck out to me as you were talking, if you remember, Nick, about 10 years ago, you and I were in a seminary teaching course together.
Mm-hmm.
He also taught a class that was all about symbolism in the Old Testament. And he talked about, if you go to any temple or a lot of church houses, really, you could walk into a local church house and you see patterns everywhere in the carpets, in the upholstery and stuff. And one pattern you'll always see is a circle within a square. The circle representing earth and the square representing heaven. And these two, or maybe it's the other way around. But anyways, angels from heaven and truth on earth have met. When earth and heaven meet, that means a covenant. We're talking about God's priesthood authority. We're talking about the covenants that we make in the temple here. And because of those covenants, Zion's light is bursting forth to bring her ransomed children home. It's not just that it's now the time, right? It's the fact that we literally have the power and the capacity to do so because God has promised it. How great is that?
I think about that symbol a lot, actually, but I've never had those insights about it being a covenant because it's when heaven and earth meet.
Were you not in that class?
I was.
It was one of the best classes I've ever had in Institute.
I never took that class.
It was all about symbolism in the Old Testament. Why things like the number 12 are used and the number 7 and.
Man, I would love a class like that because I studied
so
that.
Good.
I've studied that kind of stuff a lot.
Yeah, it was so good.
Good stuff. But yeah, angels from heaven and truth from earth. So heaven and earth have come together when humans, us here on earth, when we go to heaven, when we're connecting with heaven, we make a covenant.
Yep.
And that covenant brings us home. Oh, neat. Todd, what a great connection.
Cool. How great is that? Oh, there's so much in hymns.
This hymn has so much power. It's just coming so excitedly and so intensely and so boldly. Like it just makes me want to jump on the boat and say, let's go. Let's do this. Like I don't like wherever we're going, I'm going too. I want to be a part of this. I'm excited. I'm super excited.
So good.
That's the feelings I'm left with.
Oh, I love it so much. I wish we could just keep talking. Because the more that I talk, the more excited I get.
And what this also does is just talking about this hymn in this way and being so excited. I'm ready for General Conference now. Like, let's do it. Let's hear the prophet. Let's hear what we need to know. Let's be ready. Which I also think is so great. I'm excited for the next time this is sung at General Conference. Mm-hmm. Having had this discussion today, and I hope those of you listening have the same experience or a similar experience, that you can feel like I am more prepared when I can hear this song and I turn my heart and I turn my mind towards God because I understand that the restoration has happened and I understand what's going on when the prophet speaks and that we have this great light because of this revelation coming down from heaven. We have great truth. We have an obligation to share it, but we hear it when we go to General Conference. Ah, so good. So good, Todd.
So good. But I think, unfortunately, our time is up, Nick.
Yeah.
How quickly time goes by. Wow. Be excited. Be excited to make and keep your covenants. Because that's how that light comes forth. Bursting. Breaking through the clouds of doubt. Filling the earth. Go ahead and fill the earth with your light.
Well, thank you so much for listening in.
Yeah.
We appreciate it so much. We love the opportunity to share. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
Next week, we will be going over the hymn, Go Forth with Faith, hymn number 263.
How appropriate after the morning breaks.
Yep. Going back to back to back on restoration hymns is fun.
It's so good.
This is great.
Yes. The deeper we dive, the more excited I get. Hopefully y'all are getting excited too.
Remember, you can always go to the description and click a link to this hymn right now if you would like to listen to the morning breaks. Other than that, we will be here again next week.
Yeah, we'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Have a good night.
Bye.